How is it going, Bears fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Down podcast, where we talk everything Bears every day of the week. Today, we have a special new episode, a special new series with a special guest. Don't know much what really to say. You guys obviously come to this channel for Bears content each and every day. I want to differentiate it a little bit. So we are starting an NFL picks series on the show. I know obviously it's a month late, but we are going to kick this off in week 5 today. Welcome back to the channel, though. I am your host, Chris Maltby. If you haven't already, do us a favor, drop a like, subscribe, wherever you may be listening. We're bringing you guys Bears content each and every day. Before we get into this episode and I introduce my guests, though, quickly here, I've got a read from our sponsors. It's going to be our sponsors of all of these episodes where I'm making my weekly picks from our sponsors over at MyBookie. Guys, bet the football season with MyBookie AG. You can receive a 100% match on your first deposit up to $1,000. Support the show today by using promo code BD. They also have a crypto rewards program designed to celebrate cryptocurrency players. Make it a winning season at MyBookie. Use code BD. Double your first deposit. Thank you so much for sponsoring. Now let's get into the picks. All right, guys. Special guest today, another Bears YouTuber, podcaster. We've got Kieq On The Mic with us today. Kieq, what's going on, my man? How have you been?
I'm doing well. Thanks, Chris, for having me on. It's a pleasure. I'm excited. You know, I love talking to other Bears YouTubers. So the more I can collaborate, the better, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's been a good day for us, man. Justin Fields starting.
Yeah, right. I almost put on my Justin Fields jersey. You know, I'm glad I got my Justin Fields jersey early, right? Because I know all the Bears fans are going nuts right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I had to order mine back in July. But we've got a good week of picks this week. I mean, there might not be a better week than week 5 to start doing this. And I'm sure you and I, as we do this throughout the next, 12 weeks, we'll accumulate a record and we'll bring on other guests and such to do it with us as well. But let's start from the top down to the bottom. I'm sure we'll choose the Bears game last, but let's start with a great game tomorrow night. We've got Thursday Night Football on Fox and NFL Network. The 3-1 Rams travel to the 2-2 Seahawks. We saw Seattle last week. Pretty impressive win over the 49ers that had a close game with Green Bay. The Rams looking like one of the better teams in the league. They just got shut out by the Cardinals last week, but still looking good with Matthew Stafford, former Lion, down there. So, Kieq, let me know who you got in this one.
Man, the NFC West is tough, the best division in football right now. And, you know, of course, I always like to say, whenever you have guys like Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, you have a chance to win. But this Rams team, with adding Matthew Stafford, had looked like a totally different ball club. They're Super Bowl contenders to me, even after the shutout last week, right? But when you look at the defensive side of the football for the Rams, I think they're going to be able to get to Russell Wilson. I think I'm going to take the Rams here.
Yeah, I'm actually going to agree with you. I've got Russell Wilson as my fantasy football quarterback, and it might not bode well for him. Right. But, you know, the Rams have a really nice pass rush. They lost Michael Brockers to the Lions, but they still have Leonard Floyd, who put up really solid numbers last year. We all know Aaron Donald is a problem. I like Seattle's wide receiver tandem there with Lockett as well as DK Metcalf, but I think this Rams team is just a little bit too much. So I'm going to go with the Rams in that one as well. First pick ever. I'm glad we're agreeing because this might get a little bumpy as things go on.
Oh, we'll disagree. I'm pretty sure we'll disagree here soon.
Yeah. Let's head to the first game on Sunday. We've got a 9:30 a.m. Eastern time game. We're heading across the pond here to London. We've got the Jets coming off their first win. Zach Wilson looked pretty solid last week against, obviously, the A.J. Brown and Julio Jones-less Titans. They're going to be facing the Atlanta Falcons. Kieq, another rookie quarterback. We saw them have a bounce-back week last week. Obviously, came in 1-10 collectively. We saw Justin Fields pick up a win. Zach Wilson got a win. Trey Lance came in, played some solid football. We'll talk about the Jaguars later. That's a whole debacle. Mac Jones looked pretty good against Tom Brady there in Foxborough, but Zach Wilson had a bounce-back week. What do you think happens in this one?
Yeah, it's going to be a 6:30 a.m. game for me since I'm, different time zone. And I'm like, you know what? I don't think I'm actually going to get up and watch this game because, you know, you look at both of these teams, the Jets and the Falcons, probably the two worst teams in football right now. So it's going to be an interesting one. Obviously, Zach Wilson, he's starting to get better. You can tell. But when I look at the Jets, it's like they're still the Jets. And the Falcons can put up points. I think if, Matt Ryan can take over the game, I think they'll have some success against the New York Jets. So I'm going to take the Falcons here.
All right, I'm going to agree with you too. I like what the Jets have put together there. I think Zach Wilson has been getting a little bit too much hate in the media recently. I think he's made some big throws. I'm a big fan of Corey Davis. He went to my high school. I think Michael Carter, their running back, gets going in this one. Actually, the Falcons, one of the worst defenses in the league against the run. But I'm going to go with Atlanta. You know, I like the pieces they have on offense. I think they can get someone like Kyle Pitts a little bit more involved in this one against a weaker D in the Jets. And Matt Ryan can still ball. We saw him do it a couple of years ago. It would be nice to see them get Calvin Ridley a little bit more involved as well. I know he's been performing a little bit under expectations, but you know, I like what the Falcons are doing. Cordero Patterson has been having a field day with them so far.
Right.
So, you know, I think it'll be a pretty good game actually. And I know you might have to wake up at 6:30 for that one. And me as a college student, waking up at even 9:30 is going to be tough.
Right.
When you're at school, but I'm gonna go Falcons slightly in that one. I almost picked the upset there, but let's move on to the morning slate of games, and by morning I mean actual morning, not 9:30 a.m. The 1 p.m. Eastern slate. We've got Packers at Bengals. Both teams 3-1. The Bengals in one of the best divisions there up in the AFC North. But the Bears had a pretty good win against them a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
Looking back on that I think as this season continues, that's only going to look like a better and better win and show more about Chicago's defense. But they're obviously facing Green Bay, who's going to come to Chicago in week 6. That's going to be an interesting one to pick next week. But we've seen the Packers play some pretty consistent football since that first blowout loss against the Saints. Who you got in this one?
My first thoughts about this game is, are the Bengals for real? Like you just mentioned, that actually looks like a pretty good win for the Chicago Bears defense. You know, as they start getting going into the season, I think Joe Burrow looks very comfortable, but they are going against Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. And I hate to say it, the Packers look better than ever. Just added Jaylen Smith to their defense. So I'm not sure if he's going to be playing this week. So they're looking better than ever. And as long as you have Aaron Rodgers, I think you have a chance to win. And unfortunately, I think I'm going to take Green Bay here.
All right, I'm going to differ from you. This is, picking the underdogs. I didn't think I was going to be picking against the Packers originally, but looking at this matchup, I like it a lot more. You know, I think Green Bay's defense definitely struggles and has struggled against every opponent they've played so far. And that's going to be something interesting to talk about next week as we move into the Bears playing the Packers, depending on how Justin Fields and co looks against the Raiders this weekend. But I like how the Bengals have moved the ball on offense so far. They might be missing Joe Mixon in this one, I believe, an ankle sprain for him. But they've got Perrine, who's a pretty solid backup. I love Jamar Chase. Absolutely love him. I think he's been an explosive, dominant piece to their offense that they've added. They've got a really good tandem of wide receivers there with Chase as well as Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins. CJ Uzoma's doing some work for them at the tight end position. And I also think, and we saw it a couple of weeks ago, the Bengals defense is mad underrated. I think they got a really good pass rush there with guys like Trey Hendrickson. And I think their defense is really pesky. So it's a 1 p.m. game on Sunday. The Packers head into the jungle. I'm going to take the Bengals, honestly, to upset them, even though the Bears did just beat them. And we'll see about Green Bay next week.
That's a bold one. That's a bold pick for.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But I don't know. I feel like if you want the biscuit, you got to risk it. So there are some of these games that I'm on the fence about, but I'm going to go with Cincinnati there. I do think Joe Burrow looks great and is only continuing to improve. Next, we've got an NFC North showdown, Lions at Vikings. I'm not sure if there's much to talk about in this one. The Lions, you know, they've throughout 4 games, I'll give them credit. They've played a lot of their opponents competitively. That game against Chicago last week, they were clawing back in there at the end. Obviously, the 66-yard field goal by Tucker to lift the Ravens over them a couple of weeks ago. Jared Goff looking okay. I just don't think the Lions really have the pieces. Vikings coming in at 1-3. I'm going to give them the win in this one. How about you?
Yeah, the Lions are just self-inflicted wounds. They were in the red zone, 4 times last week against Chicago, and just couldn't get it done. Every time they got there, our defense stiffened or it was a turnover. They just can't get into the end zone, right? It's tough, but I think I'm going to take the Vikings. I think the Lions will play tough. It's a division game. They're going to come in and play tough, but I think the Vikings are just a better football team here.
Yeah, Vikings have really been getting it going with Adam Thielen as well. Hopefully they can have Dalvin Cook back in this one. Let's head out east, actually, to Pittsburgh. The Steelers have been a team that have been quite underwhelming so far. The Bears are going to head to Pittsburgh Week 9 on Monday Night Football. The more and more I watch the Steelers, the better and better I feel about that game.
Yeah.
Man, I don't like to roast other players, but Ben Roethlisberger truly does look like a tree trunk out there. So they're facing the 3-1 Broncos. Not sure who's going to be at quarterback for them. Teddy Bridgewater got concussed last week. Drew Lock went in. That game ended weirdly when the Ravens wanted to break a record for most games with 100-yard rushing consecutively. But, this Broncos defense is pretty stout. Vic Fangio's doing a pretty good job over there. Pittsburgh is the favorites, but I'm actually going to go with the Broncos here. I like what they have on offense. Melvin Gordon as well as Javonte Williams. Pretty good wide receivers. Cortland Sutton's been stepping up. Noah Fant looks good. I think Denver gets it done actually pretty convincingly.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I really like Denver. I know a lot of people are saying, are they for real? Obviously, got handed a pretty tough loss against Baltimore last week. But right here, I'm looking at, is Teddy Bridgewater actually going to play? I feel like if he plays, I think it's a guaranteed win. I think it's a guaranteed win even when Drew Lock plays. Ben Roethlisberger just looks terrible. I know that team has been dealing with some injuries as well, but I think Denver should be able to get a win here in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I think they'll be able to squeak it out. But if someone, it seems like for the Steelers, the big thing has been they really haven't been able to get their wide receivers involved. They've got the pieces there with Deontay Johnson, Juju Smith-Schuster, Najee Harris has looked good. And they've got a pretty good defense too. Minka Fitzpatrick, TJ Watt should be interesting. But if they lose another one, this could crumble like a house of cards for them as we head down the stretch. Let's head into our next one. One of our last, actually, we got a couple more games in the morning stretch. We've got Dolphins at Buccaneers. Jacoby Brissett is going to start against someone he used to play behind in Tom Brady. Buccaneers coming off what wasn't the greatest win, if I'm being completely honest, over the Patriots last week. But regardless, I still think they get this one done pretty easy. How about you, Kieq?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Bucs here. It's hard to go against the GOAT, even though at one moment they can look pretty bad. A Bucs team that kind of goes up and down at times, but it's like, you can't go against the GOAT Tom Brady, right? And they're playing the Dolphins with Jacoby Brissett, missing Tua. I think they're going to bounce back in a pretty big way here. Yeah,
absolutely. They're 10-point favorites in that one. Another team that goes up and down here, as you mentioned, the New Orleans Saints. They're going to head to Washington to take on the football team. Now, this is a really interesting one. We've seen Taylor Heineke come in for the Washington football team, win 2 games against the Giants, and then last week over the Falcons in a thriller. So this is a tough one. I'm going to pass it to you. I need to think about this one. What do you think about this game?
What Saints team am I going to get? They blew out the Packers in week 1, and then they it's I don't know what I expect from the Saints team now. And like you said, Heineke is playing pretty good football. I'm going to lean on the Washington football team's defense here. I think they're going to have a big day. Chase Young, a lot of those guys are playing well. I'm going to take Washington football team here.
That's a solid pick. I think I'm going to agree with you. I like Washington's defense too. Kendall Fuller, Landon Collins, some experienced veterans back there. Antonio Gibson has started to get into a groove. Yep. Terry McLaurin, obviously, a solid weapon for them. I know Logan Thomas, their tight end, just went on IR, and they signed Jace Sternberger earlier this morning. But I got to agree with you. I don't think we can trust this Saints team to be consistent. It might just be the Jameis Winston impact. But, I expected a little bit more out of the Saints this year. But next one, we've got a real interesting one. I love Jalen Hurts. He's someone who's been great for me in fantasy football since he entered the league. The Eagles are going to head to Carolina to face the Panthers. The Panthers obviously recently traded for C.J. Henderson. Now they've got Stephon Gilmore as well as J.C. Horn. Man, how about that secondary, Kieq? Sam Darnold's been leading the way. Christian McCaffrey did practice today. Looks like he could possibly come back. Who you got in this one?
Man, this is going to be a good one. I love watching the Panthers. My cousin actually plays for the Panthers. Shaq Thompson, we're family, so I always try to keep. Yeah,
that's
I
awesome.
try to keep tabs on the Panthers here and there. And that defense is stout, and it's going to even get scarier when Gilmore is actually ready to play. And I think the Carolina Panthers are a pretty good team in the NFC, so I'm going to take the Panthers here in a hard fought battle.
Yeah, I like what the Eagles have been able to do offensively. Miles Sanders has had a solid start to the season. The rookie Devontae Smith has been pretty good with Hurts there. But I got to go with the Panthers in this one, regardless of who it is at running back. It could be Chuba Hubbard. It could be Royce Freeman. I hope it's McCaffrey for my own fantasy football team, as I keep alluding back to. But it's been really good to see Sam Darnold bounce back, play a couple good games. They got it tight there at the end last week against the Cowboys. That game they basically got blown out in for the most part, but I like him to bounce back this week, move to 4-1. That NFC South is definitely going to be good. It should be fun in a couple of weeks when we're picking Darnold versus Brady, because if you asked me who was going to win that game a couple of years ago when it was Patriots Jets, I would have given you no faith in Sam Darnold. But man, that defense is lining up to be good. All right, we're on to the Jaguars, a team I said that we were going to get into. My God, Urban Meyer, one of the worst coaching hires of all time. We don't even have to go down that rabbit hole, but what an idiot. They're 0-4. I feel bad for Trevor Lawrence. Saw a tweet earlier that he's entering the transfer portal. Unfortunately, that's not possible. He's not in college anymore. Bet he wishes he was, though. They're going to face the Titans, who are coming off a loss against the Jets. Obviously, we spoke about that earlier. Kieq, Derrick Henry's look good to start the season. I know the Titans are at least getting A.J. Brown back in this one, and the Jaguars are a whole mess, especially after leading that game in Cincinnati last week. So I think this is an easy pick, but who do you have in this AFC South showdown?
Yeah, what's worse than the Jets? The Jaguars, right? There's absolute mess. Urban Meyer, they're going to ruin that young man's career. It already looks like it. He can't get out. He's stuck for at least 4 years, right? But I'm going to take the Titans, even though they struggled against the Jets team. I think they're going to bounce back. They're going to get some players back healthy, so I think they're going to bounce back and beat the Jags.
Yeah, I got to agree with you. Ryan Tannehill hasn't had the greatest start to the season, but this Jaguars team is just so messy that I can't trust them whatsoever. But one thing, you just said, what's worse than the Jets, the Jaguars? What's worse than the Jets and the Jaguars? Maybe the Texans. They've got Davis Mills at quarterback. They cut Anthony Miller. Bears won that trade. Let's go. They're going to be facing Mac Jones and the Patriots. 2 1-3 teams. New England's the 9-point favorite here. I'm going to take the Patriots pretty convincingly. I like what they've done so far with Jacoby Myers. Obviously, a little banged up at the running back position. They've got Brandon Bolden in there now. That's a little bit of an interesting one, but I like the wideouts they have. They haven't gotten Nelson Aguilar involved too much, but I hope they can continue to do that. And man, Matthew Judon has been absolutely feasting on that defense. They did just trade Stephon Gilmore. A lot of Patriots fans were mad about that this morning, but J.C. Jackson has been playing some of the best football of his career. I'm going to take the Patriots convincingly over the Texans.
It's interesting because you look at these two teams, they're both 1-3, but hear me out. The Patriots may be the best 1-3 team in the NFL right now. Yeah. Mac Jones is finally coming into his own. I'm going to have to agree with you. I got the Patriots in this one.
All right, we're going to hop over the Bears game until the end. Making you guys wait, I apologize. But we're going to move on to their 4:05 game, and man, this is a good one. We've got the Cleveland Browns, who obviously absolutely dominated the Bears a couple of weeks ago. They're going to L.A. to face the Chargers. Holy crap, this Chargers team looks good. Coming off 2 consecutive wins over the Chiefs and the Raiders, 2 very important wins for them there. I got to go with the Chargers, man. I love Justin Herbert, what they've been able to do. Austin Eckler's been beasting. Keenan Allen's always really consistent. We've seen Mike Williams only have one really porous week so far. He was not the greatest last week. And then defensively, I really like what they got going on as well. Joey Bosa seems like he's coming back into his own. In that secondary, Derwin James is back. He recorded his first pick since 2018 last week. I don't trust Baker Mayfield too much. Even though he just slapped the Bears, I still have, for some reason, a personal vendetta against Baker Mayfield. I think this is a really good game. It's in L.A. I'm not saying that the Chargers are going to bring out some incredible crowd, but home field advantage does play an important piece in the NFL to some point. I'm going to take the Chargers slightly in this one.
Justin Herbert is the real deal. I think he's shown us that these last couple of games. But then you look on the other side, and you look at Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney. That whole defense is playing really, really well. This is going to be a big test for the Los Angeles Chargers. And I have to bring this up real quick. When you look at Myles Garrett and you look at one of his biceps, it's as big as me, my whole self. He is an absolute tank. He has 3 guys blocking him, and he's still getting to the quarterback. So it's going to be a good game. And I think this is going to be a good step for the Los Angeles Chargers to prove themselves in the AFC. I think they're going to take a slight win. It's going to be a good game, but I think they're going to take the win.
Yeah, I got to agree with you there. I think that's going to be a good one. Let's move to 4:25 p.m. Eastern time. This is an interesting one, an NFC East showdown. The Giants coming off their first win of the season. Saquon Barkley's finally getting into a groove. I got to give Daniel Jones credit where it's due. He's had a pretty solid season so far, even though the team is not performing. Almost 100 completions, just under 1,200 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, and interception. They've looked solid enough, I guess. Kenny Galladay's kind of getting into a groove now, but man, this Dallas team is solid. So who you got in this one?
I think the Dallas Cowboys fans are going to love me here because Dallas, it actually may be your year. Your defense is playing well. Your offense is scoring points. Dallas fans, look at you. It may actually be your year this year. And the Giants, when I look at the Giants, I think they're still trying to find their identity. They're playing pretty decently, but I think Daniel Jones has to take the next step. But I'm going to take the Cowboys here. They're playing really good football.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. I got to go with the Cowboys. I was a little bit worried earlier in the season just because Mike McCarthy is their coach that they weren't really going to get Ezekiel Elliott going. He's got 342 yards and 4 touchdowns on the season. I really like the wide receivers they've got down there. CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, both playing great football. Dak, man, I love Dak. Something about it. I just love him. It's at AT&T Stadium, too. I think it's a pretty easy pick. I'm going to go Cowboys in this one. Last afternoon game, we've got the San Francisco 49ers. Trey Lance making his first start. Can he dethrone Kyler Murray? Kieq, what do you think?
No, not at all. I think the 49ers defense is playing pretty good football, but look what the Cardinals are doing. They're just killing everybody in their path and making it look easy. What they did to the Rams should put the whole NFL on notice. Kyler Murray's playing great. That defense is playing great. Everyone on the Cardinals is playing great. So I'm going to take the Cardinals here.
Yeah, Cliff Kingsbury really showing what he's about. I think without a doubt, Kyler Murray's the front runner for the MVP candidate right now. Chase Edmonds is playing good. He's got 43 carries, 255 yards. Their leading receiver, no, it's not DeAndre Hopkins. No, it's not Christian Kirk. You know that name, A.J. Green? He's got 248 yards and 2 touchdowns. I'm going to go with the Cardinals here. J.J. Watt, Chandler Jones. Those guys have been absolutely killing it. I hope Trey Lance plays well. He's someone who I would have liked to fall to the Bears if somehow we could have gotten him back in that draft. He was my favorite other than Justin Fields. So I'm going to take the Cardinals there, but best of luck to Trey Lance. We've got a showdown, man. A great game on Sunday Night Football. Luckily, at least for you, the Sunday Night Football game is so early where you're not staying up past midnight like me to watch them. But I'm definitely going to be staying up watching this one. Buffalo, the Bills, travel to Kansas City. Kansas City, a team we saw lost 2 weeks ago against the Chargers, also had a stunning loss at the end of the game to the Baltimore Ravens a couple of weeks ago. This Buffalo team really has gotten it kicking the last couple of weeks. They killed the football team. They killed the Texans. I'm not sure if those are the best opponents to put them up against. But Josh Allen has been playing really well. Diggs is doing his thing. Singletary and Moss, the two-headed monster at running back. Kieq, who do you like in this one?
This is the giant that the Bills have to get past. If they want to be a contender in the AFC, you have to go right through this Kansas City team. Kansas City has, like you said, like you mentioned, I think they're already battle tested, obviously. They've played some tough opponents in the Ravens and the Chargers, where the Bills, the Texans, you just mentioned it. Who they play last week?
They've got Houston, Washington, Miami.
Right. It's not the best team. So this is going to be their first big test to see, all right, we know this Bills team is good, but are they great? Can they make a run in the AFC? It's hard for me to go against Patrick Mahomes. I don't know why. So I'm going to take the Chiefs here.
All right, I'm going to differ with you on this one. I'm going to go the Bills. You're right. They definitely haven't faced the best opponents in their last couple of games. 3 really easy wins for them, and they lost to Pittsburgh in week 1, which was definitely an interesting one, seeing how the Steelers are performing right now. But that Kansas City defense, man, I'd even be confident that the Bears could perform against them. They've allowed 453 yards per game to opposing teams, 307 through the air, almost 150 on the ground. They've been allowing over 31 points per game to opposing teams. We don't know if the Bills are battle-tested and ready, but one thing I know is that guys like Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen are good football players. I think the Buffalo Bills will be able to put up the points in this one, and we'll see if they can stop them on defense. Their defense has looked pretty good so far. All right, we've got our last game before picking the Bears one, and that should be a really interesting talk. Monday Night Football. These are two teams, going in different directions that probably shouldn't be because I think the Ravens are overrated. But I obviously go to college in Indiana. I'm from Chicago originally, but I guess my hometown Indianapolis Colts are heading to Baltimore on Monday Night Football. Been an interesting season for the Ravens. They've squeaked out some of these wins very slightly. But Carson Wentz has looked a little bit wishy-washy for the Colts. They've only got one win so far last week in Miami. I think I know who I'm going with on this one, but Kieq, I'm going to pass it to you first. Who you got in this Monday Night Showdown?
Man, this is actually a pretty good game. I'm actually looking forward to this one. I don't know if I can trust the Colts quite yet. Let me take that back. I don't think I can trust Carson Wentz quite yet. When you look at the Ravens, I think Lamar Jackson will be able to make enough plays against this Colts defense in order to squeak out a win. So I'm going to go with Baltimore.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Baltimore as well. Hollywood Brown had a really nice bounce back week last week after not having the greatest week in Detroit. Here's my reasoning for this. I mean, we haven't seen the Colts beat a good team yet. They've lost to three really good teams: Tennessee, the Rams, the Seahawks. But we have seen Baltimore beat two respectable opponents. Obviously, they beat Kansas City on Sunday Night Football in week 2. And then last week, they had a pretty convincing win over Denver. So I'm going to go Ravens on that one. I live with all Colts fans, so if that game doesn't go well, I'm going to be hearing it for 24 hours after. But I'm going to go with the Ravens in that one. I think Lamar Jackson makes some solid plays against what I think is a pretty good Colts defense. But obviously, the biggest game of the week for us. I'm not going to give my score prediction. I'll tell you who I think is going to win because we don't do score predictions until our pregame show. But 4:05 p.m. Eastern, October 10th. Going to the Death Star, Allegiant Stadium, Bears versus Raiders. Raiders coming off a loss where they were pretty much shut out the entire first half and almost till the end of the third quarter by the Chargers. Bears coming off a solid win over the Detroit Lions. Justin Fields, it's his team now. It's his time now. Kieq, you think he can lead them to an upset win?
I actually do. I truly do. When I look at this Raiders team, and this is how they kind of were last year. They would go up and down and come back to earth, right? And one thing I do know for sure is that the Raiders struggle against tight ends. And I think with us losing Montgomery, we should probably put more of a focus in using our tight ends a little bit more. Use Cole Kmet, use Jimmy Graham. They're 6'7". There's not a lot of people that can guard those guys, right? So I think what Justin Fields brings to his offense, obviously, you can roll him out. He can run, use his legs. He has the accuracy. He showed that against Detroit. I think Justin Fields, if the game plan is right, and obviously it's not Matt Nagy anymore calling the plays, it's Bill Lazor, which is huge.
I sure hope so.
I sure hope so. If it's still Bill Lazor, I think Bill Lazor will put Justin Fields in good situations. And even though we're missing Montgomery, we still have Damian Williams. We still have Khalil Herbert, right? We still have those tight ends. Just make it comfortable for him. And I think if you keep it simple, and then when we have those opportunities to go downfield like we did against Detroit, which the Raiders will allow you to do that, I think we should be all right.
Yeah, I think we'll be all right too. I think one thing when you take a look at Chicago's defense that they've done well, they've done a pretty good job at stopping the run. Josh Jacobs, Kenyon Drake haven't been able to get going too much for the Las Vegas Raiders. I believe they're only averaging about 80 rushing yards per game, which is one of the worst marks in the league. But the Bears front seven is one of the best in the league. I'm not going to comment on their secondary because I think Eddie Jackson's play has regressed a little bit. Jaylen Johnson has been playing incredible, though. I'll give him that. I'm a little bit worried about some of these weapons on the Raiders. Henry Ruggs, it could be a tough day. Same with someone like Hunter Renfrow, who I think is the next Cooper Kupp in this league. Darren Waller is also going to be a problem. And Derek Carr has been playing some pretty darn good football so far. But I do think we'll be able to succeed against this Raiders defense. They run that base 4-3 defense. Max Crosby looks good. They've got Yannick Ngakoue. Denzel Perriman's looked really good. They brought in KJ Wright from the Seahawks. But the one weakness I will point out that they have definitely right now, man, that secondary is banged up. We saw at least 3 or 4 cornerbacks go down against the Chargers. They're 1 and 2. Trayvon Mullen and Casey Hayward. Casey Hayward is fine. They're 3 and Damon Arnett. If you remember, the Bears traded the Raiders the pick in the Khalil Mack trade that ended up being Arnett. They are both down. So I think the Bears offense will be able to bounce back against a solid unit in this one. We saw them get shut out by Cleveland, but this is a respectable defense. I think they'll be able to have a pretty good game. Get Allen Robinson going. Darnell Mooney had a really nice week last week. His first game of over 100 receiving yards. I think we'll be able to keep him going in this one, and hopefully the Bears will be able to pull it out. It might come down to the run game, and not being one-dimensional, because the Bears are going to have to get a solid run game going if they want to win in this one. You just can't become one-dimensional, especially against a Raiders defense, even though they do have a banged-up secondary. I do have trust in Damian Williams. It'll be nice to see Khalil Herbert, someone who I saw at training camp and in the preseason, perform well. It'll be nice to see him get some snaps, but I think the Bears squeak it out, man. I think it's a close game. Maybe King Cairo Santos at the end pulls it out. I'm not trying to give away too much about my score prediction. That'll come later this week, though. But Thank you guys so much for tuning in to our Week 5 picks. We're going to be doing this weekly, going to be coming out every Thursday morning, obviously before the Thursday night football game. Maybe some Wednesday uploads and stuff based on changes of schedule. But we're looking forward to doing this, Kieq. I mean, we're going to bring on special guests, obviously. Hopefully by the end of the season, have a whole panel of people doing this. And I'm really looking forward to it. So that's pretty much it for me. Kieq, any last words before we sign off?
Chris, thank you so much for having me on. I'm looking forward to future collaborations with you and the rest of your co-hosts. So,
yeah, absolutely. A lot to look forward to. Always nice picking someone else's mind about football. I'm sure if we stuck on this, we could talk about these matchups for 4 or 5 hours. But unfortunately, we have things to do, and I don't want to burn myself out, especially if the Bears lose this weekend.
Right.
So, guys, it's been a pleasure to be your host. Once again, my name is Chris Maltby, and Bears fans, as always, do us a favor and stay safe and bear down. We'll see you in the next one. Peace out.